Android 17 is the real MVP of the Tournament of Power. And to dive deeper into this video, alrighty guys, it is Quaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Dragon Ball discussion about the Tournament of Power. And as always, if you guys have not caught up to where Super is as of episode 127, this video will contain arguably the biggest spoilers that this series has had thus far, as I will be talking about a lot of direct things that actually happened in the episode itself. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video and let's get straight into this discussion and get the party started. So, why is Android 17 the MVP? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to outline what actually defines an MVP, and I understand that a lot of angry keyboard warriors or a lot of angry commenters are going to comment and say, you know, Android 17 isn't the strongest member of the Tournament of Power. You know, the Tournament of Power is not finished yet. You know that he won't be the one who would defeat Jiren because the last three characters are the only characters that can possibly defeat Jiren if Jiren does not defeat himself. So yeah, I'm aware of that, guys, but when you talk about the most valuable member to a team, most valuable doesn't mean you're the most skilled fighter. It was who is the most valuable character in helping you get through a specific situation. And although this is not a sports channel, I am not going to use a sport example, but I will use sports as an outline to make my points here. A lot of times in sports, the most talented player does not win MVP. For example, in the NBA, there's a player with the name Russell Westbrook who won the MVP last year, but most people would say LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, other NBA players are more talented than Russell Westbrook. And if you go to the NFL, if the MVP was the best quarterback or the most talented player in the NFL, then Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers would win it every single year, as opposed to having other quarterbacks or other positions who win from time to time. So it's not always about who's the most talented. It's about who helps their team out the most in the eyes of the people who are watching it. And when you translate this to Dragon Ball, I think a great example I could use to illustrate this better for you who are more familiar with the Dragon Ball series is to look at the Cell games. So, when you look at the events of the Cell games, who was actually the MVP for Earth? Who was the key reason as to why Cell lost? Well, I think the default answer for most people would be that Gohan is the key reason as to why Cell was defeated. I'm sure most people would say Gohan was the most valuable member for Universe 7 in that case. Obviously, Universe 7 wasn't a thing back then, or he was the most valuable fighter for Earth at that time. And I can argue that he was not. I can argue that although Gohan was the strongest character, and he was definitely the muscle, Goku was actually the most valuable fighter in helping Earth to survive. I can give you 5 key reasons. First of all, Goku trained Gohan. So when you look at how strong Gohan was against Cell, although a lot of that power was his potential, Gohan wouldn't have been anywhere near even strong enough to somewhat compete against Cell had he not mastered Super Saiyan, had he not mastered the full power Super Saiyan state, had he not trained with Goku for all that time. He would not have been anywhere near as powerful enough to fight against Cell had it not been for Goku. Let's also factor in that there was a moment throughout the Cell games where Gohan was completely losing hope in that battle, and Goku was the one who coached him into defeating Cell because Gohan didn't even have confidence in himself to beat Cell in the first place. And when you also factor in one of the biggest things, that Goku sacrificed his own life for Gohan to live, along with all of the other members of Earth, because of the fact that he was the only one with the instant transmission, you have a moment where Goku directly stopped Cell from eliminating planet Earth. And on top of this, Goku was the one who chose Gohan to fight against Cell, and Goku was the one who fought Cell first so that Gohan would learn better how Cell actually fought against him. And that was more so for the anime than the manga, but you guys are getting my point here. And if you really want to go with that definition of an MVP, then you could say that Monaka was the most valuable fighter or most valuable player from the Universe 6 tournament, because he technically was the one who defeated Hit in that battle. So now that I got the definition of an MVP out of the way, I'm going to tell you why Android 17 was definitely the MVP. So guys, let's factor in the most recent thing first. Android 17 gave his life to protect Goku and Vegeta from Jiren. And to tell you guys the honest truth, if I were to put some personal insight into this, I definitely didn't see this coming. I think a lot of us, even with spoilers, were anticipating that 17 was going to lose, but I don't think anybody thought 17 was going to die, and the spoilers did not indicate that 17 died. It just implied that he lost, but there was never an indication that he gave up his life. And if we rewind the events before the whole battle between Universe 7 and Universe 11, I think a lot of us forget something that happened against Annie Raza. So we have a direct instance here where Annie Raza was obviously having that massive energy blast that was going to knock out everybody from Universe 7, and they were going to defeat all the Universe 7 characters at once, and Android 17 was the key character that found the weakness in his core, attacked it, and allowed everybody to defeat Annie Raza. And when you factor this in, guys, everybody was already somewhat battle fatigued from the battle before, and 17 was the key reason into helping them to stop a character that was already giving them problems. And the difference between this and a lot of other moments throughout the Tournament of Power is that when you factor in another big fight like Goku fighting against Kefla, the reason why Annie Raza had a lot more weight to it is because Annie Raza was fighting all of the Universe 7 characters at once versus Kefla, who was only fighting against Goku. And although Goku is the muscle of Universe 7, there are other characters who could have potentially have knocked out Kefla. Vegeta with his Beyond Super Saiyan Blue state, if he unlocked it against Kefla, could have possibly knocked her out. Jiren or Topo, who are other competing universes, could have knocked Kefla out. Kefla was specifically just fighting Goku, whereas Annie Raza posed a direct threat to the entire Universe 7 team all at once. And that definitely has a lot of weight in factoring in Android 17's value to that. And if you also want to talk about another key character that is definitely not as big as Annie Raza or Jiren, I will also say that when you combine the efforts of Android 18 and Android 17 in helping Goku and numerous characters throughout the entire bout, especially against Ribrianne, and also against Ribrianne's teammates in Kakunsa and Rosie, 17 also had other moments throughout the Tournament of Power where he also knocked out key characters, in addition to knocking out two very important characters that posed a direct threat to Universe 7. So when you factor in all of this, guys, Goku, who at the very end might be the one to knock out Jiren and who's also knocked out other important characters, might be the muscle of Universe 7. But when you factor in the character who was most valuable to people losing, like the one character that if it wasn't for them, everybody would have lost, I would actually have to give you an example in saying that Android 17 is definitely that character, considering the fact that Goku and Vegeta would have already have lost to Jiren had it not been for 17's sacrifice. And another thing we have to do is define what exactly is the objective of the Tournament of Power when you consider the fact that the objective of the Tournament of Power is to survive amongst other universes. Android 17 was the most integral character in keeping that alive for Universe 7. And if there was one more thing I wanted to talk to you guys about here, it's Android 18, and to tell you guys the honest truth, I do think that Android 17 has overshadowed her, and I do think that Android 17 is a character that obviously carried a lot more weight throughout the Tournament of Power, but when you look at Android 18, she's a key character in all of this too, and I do think that she's not really as appreciated as the way 17 is. First of all, she was also a key character in defeating Ribrianne, even though that was just an individual character. And also, when you factor in that Android 18 gave her spot up in the tournament for Android 17 to continue fighting, and when you look at how Android 17 has become such a major asset to the Universe 7 team, that also tells you in an indirect way Android 18 solved all of the Tournament of Power's problems for Universe 7, because had it not been for her sacrifice, and had she not given herself up to save 17, then the characters in the Tournament of Power would have been in a much worse position, because 18 wouldn't have been strong enough to fight against the stronger characters from Universe 11, and she would have lost to Topo and Dispo and Jiren a lot quicker than 17 would have. So obviously she factored in the value of her brother, and ultimately I think when you look at all of the contributions that Android 18 has made before the fight between Universe 7 and Universe 11, even including the bout against Universe 3, Android 18 actually has one of the highest amounts of knockouts in the Tournament of Power, even more so than Android 17. So when you factor in all of the knockouts that 18 has had, when you factor in that she sacrificed herself to protect the most valuable member of the Tournament of Power, and when you also factor in that she put the others above herself, I definitely think at the end of the day that we definitely have to give Android 18 a lot of credit in being one of the most valuable members of the Tournament of Power alongside Android 17 and Goku. So with everything else said, guys, that's all I have to say about why I think Android 17 is the MVP. If you disagree with me, I ask that you respectfully say why in the comment section below, as I, explained all of my points, and I want to hear all of your reasonings as to why you agree or disagree with what I said, and also how shocked you were to see that 17 actually died at the end of the episode. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys, and let me know what you thought about Dragon Ball Super episodes 127.